Please note that this hearing is being recorded to comply with the open meetings law. The video will be posted on the Brooklyn Borough Presidents YouTube channel. Following the applicant's presentation and our question and answer session, members of the public who are in attendance tonight will have the opportunity to testify on the application. All comments are limited to 2 minutes. Members of the public may also submit comments to Ask Reynoso at brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Brooklyn Borough President's consideration until Wednesday, August 9th. Please call the first item and let us begin.
Calendar item number 1, 534 Coney Island Avenue, number C230010ZMK, N230011ZRK. An application by Ramika Property Group Corporation for a zoning map amendment from C82 to R7X C24, and a zoning text amendment to Appendix F for MIH to facilitate a new 11-story mixed-use development, including 43 dwelling units to totaling 53,924 square feet of residential space in ground floor retail at 534 Coney Island Avenue in Kensington, Community District 12, Brooklyn. Community Board 12 voted to conditionally approve this application on the conditions that the application is modified to R6A zoning district rather than the requested R7X, and that the proposed building not exceed a height of 70 feet. To the applicant's representative, we would ask that you please state your name and present this application.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Eric Palatnik. I'm a lawyer, and I'm representing 534 Coney Island Avenue, Ramika Properties. Thank you, everybody who's here today, for joining us. The application is on the screen behind you. I don't know if you could see, it's awkwardly placed for you, but see there. It's a rezoning, a proposed rezoning from a C82 district, which is located within the Ocean Parkway Special Sub-District, that's the OP, to an R7X zoning district with a C23 overlay, also remaining in the Ocean Parkway Sub-District. If it were to be approved, it would allow for the redevelopment of what's an existing fast food store, Kentucky Fried Chicken, with a 11-story at its highest point, but as you can see from the plans here, it's 7, 8, 9, 10 stories, and then on the right side, it drops down to 5 stories. So 11 stories at its tallest is the building, but it varies in size, as you can see here. The application is shown there. As you can see here on the right side, it's proposed to be an 11-story mixed-use residential development. It will have 59,000 total square feet of floor area. That's a 5.9 FAR, and it's slightly higher than the R7A zoning district that's immediately across the street. That would allow very tall buildings as well, but it's slightly higher to allow for the inclusion of affordable housing. The buildings that are across the street in the R7A district have no affordable housing. They were created before mandatory inclusionary housing. So by allowing these buildings to go slightly taller than what's next across the street from them, it'll allow for the inclusion of affordable housing, thereby meeting the city's goals of creating more housing. The zoning map change is reflected here on the zoning map that's in front of you. As you can see, the existing zoning district on the left-hand side of the screen, the proposed on the right-hand side of the screen. But when you take a look at the zoning district map, you'll see that it's, as I mentioned a moment ago, it is diagonally across the street from an R7A district, straight across the street from an R6A district, and at the tail end of a C82 district. And just for your own edification, C82 districts were primarily created by Robert Moses to facilitate gas stations. And that's why you see what was a former gas station on this gas station next door, and our site was a former gas station. This is the proposed rezoning. The CA2 zoning district that's in place right now allows for a very high intensity of commercial uses. You can see that's on the left-hand side. It also allows for a very high FAR for community facility, 4.8, which is actually quite similar to what we're proposing here. We're proposing 6, so 4.8 is just 1 point below that and would have no affordable housing in it at all because that's as of right. The right side column shows you what we're proposing, which I just went through with you a few moments ago. This is the site right here. You can see the rezoning area clearly depicted for you. While you're looking at the rezoning area, you'll see there's a school right next door. It's PS 558. It's elementary school. Also, you can see diagonally across the street are new residential developments, or relatively new, that are reflected within the R7A district that have no affordable housing within them. One more thing I could point out on this map, you can see Hinckley Place, which is on the right side, and Beverly Road, which is on the left side, are interdispersed with single-family home that's right behind us, but then you can see there's an 8-story apartment building right behind that. So the block has an eclectic mix on both Hinckley and on Beverly of building typologies. This is the building. I spoke about it already. There'll be a total of 43 apartments. There'll be 11 affordable apartments and 19 parking spaces. It'll have 3,000 square feet of commercial area at the ground floor. This is what the building looks like as far as its general sections go. It doesn't show the portions that are 8 and 9. I'll show that in more depictions later, but what is clear here, you could see, is that the building really stops at its full height at the 9th floor, similar to other buildings around it, and the 10th and 11th is a typo there. It's not 10 and 10, it's 10 and 11, are set back. You could also see on the left side of the screen is a 2-story residential portion of the building. I'm trying to call out to your attention here is, although the paperwork does say it's an 11-story building, it is 11 stories at its tallest point, but the building varies in height as you move around it. This is equally as telling as what we just described a moment ago. Is the building that we're proposing is at 110 feet, but you could see that the buildings around it, and it's including affordable housing, the buildings around it, which include no affordable housing, rest 40 feet to 45 feet below it. But very similar as far as appearance from the street. They're large buildings with large massing. You could also see the 70-foot height of the building on Hinckley Place that I was talking about, and I'll go on from there. This is the proposed zoning map change. It's just showing you what we're proposing to do. That's overlaid over a tax map. There'll be numerous sustainability features. I know that was a question of yours, including Energy Star appliances. There will be electrical vehicle charging at the cellar, solar ready on the roof, and low flow plumbing fixtures. This is a plan or a sheet that shows you quite clearly that there really hasn't been any affordable housing built in the community over the past decade or so. The red dots that you see within Community Board 12 is the total amount of affordable housing that has been created. In a city of millions and millions of people, I can't see all the numbers there clearly, but it looks like it's somewhere around 50 or 60 units that have been created, woefully below targets. So unless we build buildings, we can't create the housing, and unless we build the buildings a few feet taller than what we've been building before, we'll never get the affordable housing. This building, which has, the exact number is 11 permanently affordable units, it's hard to believe, that'll make an impact of increasing the amount of affordable units by MIH in this district by 20%, one building, relatively small building. So there is a big need for affordable housing. This slide shows you that we're proposing to have option level 1 of the MIH program, which I think is laudable, especially considering there is no 421A in place, which makes development extremely difficult for everybody. Hopefully that'll come back soon, but in the meantime, we have provided the lowest level of the affordability that can be offered, and you could see the different breakdown here. I won't go through the numbers, but you can see it right there. This gives you a little more simplified just for this development, just to give you the idea of how many apartments are affordable and their breakdown. And as you can see here, there'll be a total of 32 market rate apartments and 11 affordable, and there'll be 9 2-bedroom affordable units and 2 1-bedroom affordable units. I'm just going to quickly go through these just to give you a little bit more of a understanding for what the site looks like. This is what you're looking at right now. Fast food, that's not good for anybody. Makes a lot of money, but it's not good for anybody. And you can see right behind it is a large apartment building. This is a site from this is from Coney Island Avenue. This, I wanted to show you, is Hinckley. Now, the site has an abnormally large sidewalk. There will be street trees planted on that. That sidewalk is city property, and that's why you see somebody's parked their car there. I don't know who, but that's the site looking at it from Hinckley. This is what's across the street. This is what I was trying to explain to you about the massing and our building. Although our building is 11 stories, it really comes to a height of 9 stories visible from the street, which is quite analogous to what you have going on around us. More pictures of the apartment buildings. This is the school that I mentioned a moment ago. And this shot shows you the block front on Coney Island is being rezoned, and it will include this automotive service station to the left. Once again, the C8 zoning district was created to accommodate cars, not people. And you can see that quite clearly here with all the cars at the gas station there. So the hope would be that we could reverse the policies of Robert Moses and create housing that's desperately needed. Here's another shot of that Shell station so you could understand the context. This is a pretty good perspective view, just to give you an idea. The building of ours that we're proposing to be on the left, I think it would fit in contextually with the other taller apartment buildings that you see around there. And I think Coney Island Avenue is well suited for taller apartment buildings. The plans, just to go through these with you. This is what I was mentioning a few moments ago. People who would want to say that the building is very tall and it sticks out, a lot of attention has been made to the design of the building to give it an aesthetic appearance that the average person walking down the street will perceive the building as a 7, 8, 9-story building. As you're going down Coney Island Avenue, you won't even be able to see the portion at the top from the street. Much like many buildings that you walk around today, you really can't see up top because it's set back. Also, you'll notice on the far right, the building drops to a height of 40 feet on the right side. That's due to a transition rule by zoning. That's not our design. We're required to have that building at 40 feet at that portion right there as a step down to the adjacent R5 zoning district. And right there under that step down portion is where the entrance to the parking garage will be, the parking spots. And you can see that in a better depiction here. So what we're showing you right here is that where we come up against neighbors to the, I guess it would be to whatever direction it is, down Hinckley Place. I can't quite figure out the direction. But as we encroach down Hinckley Place, the building steps down to a height that's more analogous to the home that's next door of it. These are the plans, and they just show everything I've been talking about a few moments ago. You can see the parking on the left-hand side. It'll be self-park. You'll drive down. The right-hand side shows you where the commercial space will be, fronting on Coney Island Avenue. These are hard to read and hard to understand, so the floor plans. This is, you've seen before, as far as the layout goes. This is the section of the portion of the building that's next door to the home that I mentioned is lower. And this picture actually just summarizes everything I just spoke about. You can see it steps up from a 7-story to an 8-story to a 9-story, and then it gets up to an 11-story. So this was the stepping up that I've been mentioning in the design of the building. Nickel, dollar, or tax abatement from the city, state, or federal government. I think it's quite impressive that New Yorkers are doing that when the rest of the country is doing it with money from the government. This is another perspective of the building, and that's the end of our presentation. I know we were asked questions beforehand. If you'd like, I'd be happy to answer some of the questions that were asked of us.
Yeah,
is that
thank
acceptable?
you. Yes, yeah, thank you. We'll go through some of our questions. Community Board 12 voted to approve an R6A zoning district rather than the requested R7X and requested a building height of 70 feet rather than the proposed 110 feet. How would such changes affect the proposed programming and affordability?
I'd be happy to answer that. The Community Board voted pretty strong, with majority, to go to an R6A. The problem with an R6A, and I'll flip back, is an R6A actually even brings the proposed zoning down to lower than the zoning that's been assigned to the properties right across, diagonally across the street, R7A. An R7A allows substantially more development rights than the R6, and the R7X allows more development rights than the R7A. How this building would be impacted, to answer your question, would be that we're providing 43 affordable units, 43 apartments with 11 affordable and 59,000, within 59,000 square feet. If it was brought down to an R6A, you would lose 4 affordable apartments. It would go from 11 to 7, and you would lose a total of 16 apartments out of the development. So you'd go from 43 apartments to 27. About a third of the apartments would be lost. And as the affordability goes, you go from 11 affordable units being provided by a privately sponsored applicant to 7 affordable units. And you would drop the floor area from 59,000 square feet to 36,000 square feet. I would dare say that the change would be dramatic. It would result in a building that is smaller than those buildings that were built without any affordable housing. And I think it would be difficult to construct a building like that. I believe you had some more questions.
Okay, thank you. How many electric vehicle charging spaces are being provided?
We haven't come up with an exact number for the number of vehicle charges. We're providing 19 parking spaces. We have been talking, the owner of the property started off as a gas station owner, many gas stations, and they are keenly involved in the conversion to electric cars, and actually they're in talks right now with, I don't know if you saw the article over the weekend, that the United States automakers have come to an agreement on the future of electrical charging. So they are keenly involved in those discussions, and they would like to include the electrical charging in the cellar level for the cars.
Okay, thank you. Are there any street trees, rain gardens, or other sustainability features proposed for the sidewalk?
Yes, there are 4 street trees along Hinckley Place right now, and there'll be 3 new street trees put in place along Coney Island Avenue when this is completed. With respect to the sustainability features, I listed them before. There'll be a white roof, it'll be solar ready, there'll be bioswales at the tree pits, there will be low flow fixtures, and things of that effect. I can go back to that slide if you would like.
Thank you. What are the plans for the 2 existing curb cuts at the development site?
They will be eliminated. It'll be just 1 curb cut will be put in place, and that will be in the parking garage area that I showed you at the low-rise portion of the building.
Okay. Are there any plans for enclosed bicycle parking?
Yes, 22 bicycle parking spaces will be included at the ground floor. In addition, there's room on the sidewalk that I showed a moment ago, and we would like to talk to the city about maybe having a city bike installation put in there as well. There's plenty of room for one.
Okay. Thank you. Is the applicant interested in applying for a parking special permit to waive the required commercial and market rate residential parking?
It's very nice of you to ask about that. I know how certain people within government feel about parking, and there's been a lot of discussion recently in national publications about parking and swapping it out for floor area. In this case, we're far along in the development, in the proposal, so we can't go back at this point because we're in ULURP, but also the owner would like to include the parking. In this part of Brooklyn, a lot of people do have cars. We hear it quite a bit, and we think that parking would be an amenity for the building, so we'd like to keep it.
And does the applicant have a commercial tenant in mind for the non-residential space?
Not yet.
And last question. Given the high rent burden in the area, did the applicant consider pursuing MIH option 2 to provide some units at deeper levels of affordability?
Yes, I think that's a typo in your question. I think you really meant to confirm our inclusion of, maybe is what you meant, option 1, because option 1 has deeper affordability than option 2 does. So we do include it to be option 1, but I'll let you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You are excused.
Thank you
so
very
much
much
for the presentation. We will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes. Please call our speakers.
The first to testify signed up is Cynthia Yavarone.
Mm-hmm. If you have a slip, you can bring it up to the front, yeah. They're right outside the door. Thank you.
very much.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Ivorone. I live at 234 East 8th Street, which is at the corner of Hinckley and East 8th, so I'm right down the block from KFC, which I will say, I am not opposed to seeing that leave, as well as the gas station next to it. But I am opposed to putting an 11 to potentially 14-story building there, because as we know, the lot next door is also going to be rezoned and potentially go up to 14. I'm not opposed to even how this building looks, because that's not what I'm here about. I'm here about the impact to my neighborhood, the impact to transit, to traffic, to subways, to buses, to parking, to schools, to sewage, to sanitation, to general quality of life. Every day I walk down that street and I look at that lot and I think, how can this actually happen? How can we let brownstone Brooklyn or a townhouse Brooklyn turn into high-rise Brooklyn? That's not how this neighborhood was ever conceived. I am totally supportive of development, but not incongruous development to a neighborhood that has so many people that move there for that reason, to live with our neighbors as part of community, not to live in a high-rise. I'm so stressed out about this, I can't even tell you, and I just hope that the borough president will listen to the community. We were also given so little warning about this meeting, and I just feel so frustrated that this is such an opaque process. As I said, not opposed to development, all for affordable housing, but it has to be done with the community. We need to have a voice, and it cannot be piecemeal. Coney Island Avenue is a mess already, and if you start adding buildings from 7 on one side, 11 to 14 on the other, what are we going to end up with? A mess. Thank you.
The next to testify signed up is Nadia Stevens.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadia Stevens. I live at 236 East 8th Street, which is right next to Cynthia. We look at the KFC from my house, and we live there. We live in the neighborhood. We know what the neighborhood needs. The neighborhood definitely needs affordable housing, but not at this height. That is the problem. The density is the problem. The community board, who is supposed to speak for the community, has already spoken. They have said that it should not go above R7A, and we agree. I understand that the developer has different ideas in mind, but he doesn't live where we do. He doesn't take our trains. He doesn't shop at our grocery stores. And see, for example, the Q train at Beverly Road is so skinny that it can't take any more density of 11 stories of people moving into the community. The parking in my neighborhood is absolutely impossible. They have the parking, I think, is like for like 40% of the amount of units. I'm sorry, and so people are going to come with additional cars, and they're going to clog up the streets even more. The sewage is going to be a problem, and I feel like the piecemeal rezoning that we're doing doesn't take the holistic idea of the community into account. And we're just doing these things, and it's very irresponsible. If we're going to do some rezoning of Coney Island Avenue, which needs to happen, it needs to be done on a holistic level, as opposed to one developer comes in and he's going to do this, another one's going to do something else. It's not what Brooklyn needs. What else? I just wrote these notes down. Let me see. Oh, and the notice. We weren't given the notice from the community board, the committee meeting and the community board as a whole, and this meeting, we were given notice of 2 or 3 days in advance, and that's really not helpful in conversation, so we need to do better where that's concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person who signed up to testify is Stephen Cohen.
Thank you. I'd like to speak up in favor of this proposal. I'm a Flatbush resident. I moved into the neighborhood 13 years ago into a new development building. So I do feel like new development has been helpful, bringing active community members into the neighborhood, helping finding housing that's more affordable than other areas, and providing much needed housing in general. I think the two prior speakers both kind of got at this, but if you look at the stretch of Coney Island Avenue, the zoning just makes no sense. It's entirely haphazard. And I think, maybe a macro level takeaway would be the borough president should get the powers that be to, come together and maybe reevaluate the corridor as a whole. So as was said, you don't have to do these kind of one-off sort of things. I mean, even looking at the map right on the wall, right on the screen, you see, it's different zoning, one side of the block versus the other, and 1 block away. I'm sure part of it is because it's the borderline of 2 community boards. So There might have been different desires on different sides, but the whole corridor should be reevaluated. In my opinion, 4th Avenue and Park Slope Gowanus should serve as a model. That was a stretch that had a lot of auto shops and gas stations, and it now provides a lot of housing that's needed. In my opinion, the parking that's being provided should be more than sufficient. I think what you'll find is there's going to be a lot of people moving from denser neighborhoods like Manhattan, Park Slope, Cal Gardens that are not coming with cars. The building that I moved into initially was a 19-unit building that had 7 parking spots, and those were not initially all used. Also, with regard to subway, local subway ridership has dropped. The B&Q are not at the ridership they were in 2019 or early 2020, so it can certainly accommodate however many new folks, 43 units. So yes, I'm in support of the project as proposed. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Arturo Humberto Namorado. I'm a resident of 70 Day Hill Road in Kensington, Brooklyn. I'm speaking in favor of this for several factors, and mainly as a sociologist and a scholar of race. The work that has been done by Robert Moses is long-lasting and has completely erased much of the connections within Brooklyn. I heard that townhouses in Brownstone, Brooklyn, they were once black homes, once homes to Latinas and different migrant communities that have now been erased. They have been moved. Gentrification has caused this. And by doing nothing in the housing crisis that we're in, will continue. This will not end today. This will not end next year. This will go on until we figure out something. And to be clear, I am in no fan of developers, nor do I work and agree with them, but in this case, this is perhaps one of the most, I'm shocked at how well it is for 43 units, 11 affordable units of permanent affordability. On top of this, as a member of the Community Board 12, I'm actually on the board. The board has failed. Has failed to notify not just the tenants, that includes renters, that also includes other landlords. I've been on the board and I voted against the amendment to go to R7X, from R7X to R6A, mainly because I did not want to see affordability be sacrificed for a few people who believe in parking more over people. We are Brooklyn, we are humans, and we need to do better to help each other as there's a migrant crisis right now. Again, this is not an issue that we solve today, but can be solved by doing something now. So again, I speak in favor to add more affordability. And again, as mentioned before, you cannot do split zoning because of our New York laws. So if this is the issue for the next slot, let us start talking about how to fix that. But I, again, will speak in favor of having more people have a chance to live in their neighborhood and generations of new Brooklynites to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person signed up to testify is Elizabeth Dennis.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dennis, and I live at 30 East 10th Street. I'm a mere 3 to 4 minute walk north on Coney Island Avenue, and I want to speak in favor of this development. I think this will provide a lot of very badly needed housing and affordable housing to my neighbors who are often really struggling to stay in the homes they're currently in the neighborhood. They have really deep ties to the community, but they need to be able to continue to afford homes. And right now, their rents are skyrocketing. So we need some things with permanently affordable units like this. I think it's also really especially nice and great that we would potentially be getting 11, not just 11 affordable units, but most of them were going to be 2-bedroom units. I think that was 9 units. People have spoken very, very much to me and to other neighbors about how hard it is to find a larger space where you can raise a small family and remain in the area. And this would really help people to stay here and to have that space. I want to note also that I take the train, I take the bus, I bike in the area. Like the majority of people in this area are car-free, and it works very well. So I think that not having that much parking is going to help this development and make sure that we're providing for both the current future and a sustainable future. I also wanted to just note that I think that it's really important that we allow this kind of development where we have enough units and we take advantage of both sides of this street that really could be bringing so much more to the community. Right now, we can barely build enough housing in this area. We're really not seeing enough housing that is, bringing rents down and making sure that people who are here and have been here all their lives can continue to stay in the area. And it would really be great if we can, not just be limited to the piecemeal zoning that we've seen now, and make sure we're providing for all the homes that we need in this housing crisis. And just to finish, not only am I in favor of this development, but I would also really like to see people looking at making a more comprehensive zoning across Coney Island Avenue to provide for more homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person who signed up to testify is Dan Miller.
Hi, my name is Dan Miller, and I'm here to testify as one of many victims of New York's housing crisis. The great thing about New York is that everyone belongs here. Whether your parents or your ancestors came over on the Mayflower, or whether your ancestors arrived last week, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your religion is, what your race is. It doesn't matter anything about you. You belong here in New York City. But we are failing to meet that commitment. We are failing the people who want to live in this amazing city and either can't move here or are being forced out by high rents. We are not building enough housing. New York City builds less housing per capita than San Francisco. We build less than half as much housing per capita as places like Seattle, and let's not even talk about sprawling Texas and megalopolises like Houston. We are failing the people who want to live here. We can tell that so many people want to live in this amazing place because rents are incredibly high. The reason that rents are so high is that we are not building enough. This building alone isn't going to fix the crisis overnight. No one building will. But when you have even a small, normal project like this faces opposition from people who just don't want to look at tall buildings, we'll never solve the crisis. We will never become the city that we should be. We will never be a welcoming beacon to immigrants, to gay people, to people who want to have abortions, to everyone who wants to live in this place, unless we build more housing. Build it now, build it fast, and support this project as part of our overall effort to build.
Thank you for your testimony. The next person signed up to testify is Will Fisher.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Will Fisher. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm a member of Community Board 12. Of course, I'm not here in that capacity. And I also live just a couple blocks from the site on the corner of Beverly and East 7th. I am lucky enough to have a rent-stabilized apartment. It has gotten me through a rough couple of years here. COVID was very difficult, and I am very privileged to have a place where you know what the rent is going to be next year. And I want that for others. I think like Dan said, like Elizabeth said, I think for New York to be the kind of welcoming place that we always talk about, we need to build, and that is not just in existing dense neighborhoods, that is in places with sorely underutilized lots like this KFC, excuse me. I want to note, between 2010 and 2018, New York City added 5 times as many jobs as we did new units of housing. And when there are new jobs and no new housing, guess who wins? Guess who gets those units? It's folks who can afford it. And this is a city where, I'm excited to see this project because there is an example that I really love. A 2-bedroom unit in this building under the MIH option selected could cost $1,200. Now that's a couple with a child who's maybe 9 years old, goes to school right across the street. Maybe those 2 parents both earn minimum wage, And that is a family that I want to have live in this neighborhood. This should be accessible to everybody. I will never be able to afford to buy a house in this neighborhood as much as I wish that I could. The other thing I want to say before I finish is that, a lot of times in these hearings we talk about the concerns that folks have, but I want to uplift the fact that there are 43 families who could live in this building who are not here tonight because they don't know who they are yet. And in particular, there are 11 who, again, are probably living in substandard conditions today. They could finally move out of that basement apartment that they pay in cash to a landlord that doesn't treat them well. This is something that I want to see here in Kensington. I want to see in every neighborhood. And I want to echo the other folks here about saying that Coney Island Avenue is definitely a mess and would like to see it considered as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next person who signed up to testify is Joyce Hansen.
Hi, I'm Joyce Hansen. I am the secretary of the 192 East 8th Street Co-op Board. So I live about a block, well, 2 blocks from where this building is proposed. And I am strongly against an 11-story building in my neighborhood. It's out of character with Kensington. I live in a 6-story building, a pre-war building, full of families and kids, and it's a great neighborhood in our building and in the surrounding area. And what I see when I look at this proposal is gentrification of what is now a diverse neighborhood, and this kind of construction is going to drive up prices. Traditionally, Kensington is the neighborhood where people from Park Slope move because it is more affordable. I mean, it's great. Let's build a 6-story or maybe even 7-story building at that location, but 11 stories, it's just wrong. And high-rises have been encroaching all down Coney Island Avenue for I don't know how long, 5-10 years now, starting at Prospect Park, moving their way down, and it's like a virus that is spreading. And I'm all in favor of better zoning on Coney Island Avenue, but this is not the way to go. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Next person who signed up to testify is Christina Klum.
Hi, I'm going to read a statement so that I can fit it in that 2-minute timeline. My name is Christina Klum, and I have been a resident of Kensington, Brooklyn for the past 10 years. I live on East 8th Street. I oppose the 11 to 14-story building. Coney Island Avenue is ripe for development, which I am not averse to, and I support MIH. However, I believe we have an opportunity to set an example in New York City and work together as a community to develop this area with intelligent, thoughtful, and attractive urban planning and community input at the forefront, not piecemeal zoning to benefit developers. I would like to call out that Kensington is a diverse community. We are made up of individuals and families from different nationalities, religions, races, and socioeconomic backgrounds. CB 12 voted against rezoning 534 CIA to an 11 to 14-story building because they heard the voices of the community and the rationales for why we felt this height was inappropriate. They approved a more appropriate height of 70 feet, an increase in size that should be able to accommodate MIH, and I hope that you will continue to honor this. In addition, we are not a NIMBY neighborhood. When a homeless shelter housing up to 130 men was open, we convened a meeting to ask questions and express any concerns. Not one person said, "Not in my backyard." I am not against development. I am pro-MIH, but I also believe that intelligent development with full consideration to the infrastructure of our neighborhood and the surrounding area is essential. You may have realized that the requested rezoning includes the properties of 2 Victorian homes, both of which house all inclusively at least 7 families, many of who might be many of whom pay below average rent, and which, with this development, could be destroyed, particularly where the Shell station now exists, because there are plans already for that to be 14 stories. 100 years from now, when we look back on all the piecemeal development that's taking place across the borough without an overarching vision for whatever rationale, and we find that our infrastructures no longer work, we will wonder how we get here. Once you begin to approve a 14-story building in one area, then chaos can ensue. We owe it not just to the current residents, but to the future generations to develop an intelligent and thoughtful way to live in this city. Thank you for your opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your testimony. The last person to have signed up to speak is Christopher Longworth.
Hi, my name is Christopher Longworth. I live at 217 East 9th Street. I'm very concerned about the sort of trying to slip it under the radar, ness that people have previously talked about with this building. It seems to put up kind of a red flag that we found out a couple of days before that it was going to be voted on by the community board. I'm concerned that it will start a chain reaction of 14-story buildings going up, down, all along Coney Island Avenue, that there won't be, everybody seems to be talking about this piecemeal development on Coney Island Avenue, and I think it'll just open up doors to many more tall buildings. Like my wife said, we were somewhat blindsided by this men's homeless shelter that was literally in our backyard, and we tried to create a dialogue with them. We never said, no, we don't want this here. We said, let's work to make this, okay for everyone. So that's sort of my biggest concern, is there hasn't been much of a dialogue about how to proceed with this and lessen the impact of the neighborhood. So I know I'm just reiterating what everybody else said who's against it, but thank you.
Okay. I can do it. Is there anyone else who has not signed up to testify who would like to? Okay.
I'm a lifelong New
Okay.
Yorker. I live across the street at 192 East State Street. You can start the clock. Like I said, lifelong New Yorker, live in 192 East State Street, across the street from this proposed development. Yes, we need low-income housing. Low-income housing. I'm not saying affordable. I'm saying that if this board speaks, and it's redundant with some of what the other speakers have said, but more voices add to what represents the thoughts of our community and the people who made the decision to come out of their busy day to speak on behalf of the people around them. We represent buildings of people and families and communities of New Yorkers of all races who understand and live through the horror of Robert Moses' work, because his name's being used all over the place to try to draw support for this building. Sorry, doesn't work. I know the history. I've lived it. I saw him cut the Bronx in half. Thank you. Now, quickly, we need to support affordable housing, low-income housing. We need to be tougher on our developers so that they can provide what is needed in the community. A comprehensive plan all up and down Kensington and Coney Island Avenue so we can address these pressing needs that are so important today. That's all I have to say. My name is Stuart Morales, by the way. Have a very nice day and good luck in your life.
Thank you for your testimony.
Okay. So at this time, hearing no further comment, this item is now closed. This ULURP public hearing is also closed. The Borough President will review the application and submit his recommendation to the City Planning Commission, which will hold its hearing at a later date. As a reminder, members of the public may submit comments to askReynoso@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Wednesday, August 9th. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all.